Hello, kia ora, g'day. I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with your Australia-only forecast for the final week of August 2025. Let's have a look at the satellite map, lightning map today. We've got a couple of areas of energy to the south, quite big ones. Cold front coming into South Australia and low pressure with the wintry change for Western Australia, and that's all moving eastwards over the coming days. On the map that you see here, the blue and the white areas, that is cloud. So the blue shows higher, bigger clouds higher up in the atmosphere. Same with the yellow, that's even higher up in the atmosphere. So thick cloud to the south of Australia and some decent clouds coming into Western Australia. The green you see, that's the rain radar on top of the satellite imagery. So you can see here rain bands moving across South Australia and coming into Victoria. And you can see the heavy showers and areas of rain around Western Australia. Dry in many other places. You might have noticed a little green blob offshore here. That's what we call a radar echo. Sometimes low cloud, humidity, other things can make it look like it's pouring with rain where there is a radar, but it is not raining there at this stage, at least not in any significant way, because high pressure is actually over eastern areas, and that is pushing up a southerly flow to northern parts of Australia and northerly winds around South Australia. There is the cold front coming in. So settled, drier conditions in the east, but with low pressure just offshore, may still get a few showers just coming in. But we will see a change this week along the eastern coastline for most of you, as all of this moves eastwards. So the temperature map today shows on the orange shading that warm air being funneled into South Australia with that windy northerly and now coming into Victoria. Tasmania will have northerly winds gradually building up. You can see the strongest of the winds around South Australia and just offshore there. And of course on the other side, the southerly dropping the temperatures behind that cold front. That's why you're seeing the green shading. That shows that that southerly has finally arrived. So Tuesday's setup, we've got a couple of severe weather boxes. As that cold front moves eastwards, as I say, high pressure is further to the east here. It's not massive high pressure, it's just enough to slow it down as that front tries to move eastwards. The low itself, quite stormy, but it is a decent way south of most of Australia. But of course, Tasmania right on the edges of it. Haven't put up the severe weather box for Tasmania, but I've got to say, it is going to be a windy day there. There will be gale force winds in some exposed areas, and the heavy stuff over on the northern side. If you're in Hobart, not looking too bad, but it will be a bit windy with those westerlies. The more serious weather comes in overnight and going into Wednesday. And look, if you're in New South Wales, okay, maybe not the northern part, but if you look at most of New South Wales, in comes the northwesterly, and that pushes out to sea the rain and the showers. So still remains around the northern rivers and a little further southwards, and it still remains in the southeast corner of Queensland. And the other feature, the tropical red line, that is dropping the furthest south it's been in a long time. So we're going to start monitoring that each week. How far south will it go? Because eventually it'll end up in southern areas. But for now, it flirts with central Australia before all of the cold stuff over here moves in. The other severe weather box is right. So around South Australia, that is mostly in the form of thunderstorms and heavy downpours. Some of those showers might be a bit squally. And then over in Western Australia, similar kind of setup, but it's more of a wintry southerly, heavy showers, maybe some hail in there, and squally winds where you get a localized burst of strong winds. Let's go to Wednesday. So the switcheroo for New South Wales is that the westerlies come in, and that brings in wet weather on the western side of the Great Dividing Range. Eastern areas should stay fairly dry. Could be a few spillover showers, but it should be sunnier as well for most places. But of course, as the clouds build up on the west, that will eventually spill over to the east. Look at this more central eastern area. Northern parts or northeastern parts of New South Wales, southeast Queensland, sunnier, drier weather. The heat line is being pushed northwards, but still pretty hot for many parts of Queensland, the northern half of the Northern Territory and the Kimberley. And you've still got the polar change at the southern end of Western Australia. Still got showers, lower temperatures there, but the severe weather box moves east. So we've got a few things going on. Heavy rain and heavy snow coming back into the mountains. You've got squally showers that could be damaging on a local basis, which means it's pretty much just associated with that downpour that's moving through. And Tasmania pretty much entirely under that severe weather risk. It basically means that we've got winds getting up to gale force and above, some snow around on the higher elevations, and heavy rain on the western and northern sides. We don't do official warnings here, that's for the Bureau of Meteorology, but we're just highlighting an area where they might be talking about the weather. And then that severe weather trails off as you go into New South Wales, but you see plenty of showers returning inland areas, the outback and the western side of the Great Dividing Range. And it stays that way into Thursday because westerlies are now dominating. So that means, again, eastern sides of Australia, around New South Wales on the coastal side, Queensland on the eastern side, much drier than it's been. Still seeing some showers further to the south and especially on the western side of the hills. The wind comes in, blows the rain clouds up, so you end up with wetter weather on that side. But you can see there's a rain shadow in here where the winds go over the hills, it dries out. Further to the south, the severe weather box pretty narrow. We're really just talking about the mountainous or higher elevation areas where snow is falling, some hail in there, and blustery winds, although the winds don't look too problematic. And it's cold for Adelaide, from all of Victoria, the ACT as well, and southern parts of New South Wales. Now you've still got the southerly over in Western Australia, but it's not as cold and the showers aren't as heavy. But we do still see a widespread area of showers, especially on the western and southwestern sides, dry up in the north here, although we do see some low pressure zones forming as that tropical red line sort of slides back southwards for a brief time. But it is a brief time because the next big anticyclone comes out of the Indian Ocean, powerful, 1036 hectopascals. So that means the high air pressure balloons all the way out to central Queensland. And as it does that, as it balloons out, it pushes the warm weather back northwards and encourages more of this windy, wintry weather. Low pressure over the top of Tasmania brings instability, so that could change in the days ahead, but that brings the risk of, again, heavy rain or showers, thunderstorms into western and northern areas. The low pressure zone means that if it's right over the top of you, it may not be windy, but then it brings instability. That means one moment it's sunny and the next thing you know it is absolutely pouring with rain. That is possible here, but really Victoria, South Australia, and going right up to the ACT, back into the wintry weather on Friday or still in it, and snow falling in the mountains. Heavy falls are possible this week around the mountains. The skiers in Australia are having a great season. Not so much in New Zealand. We haven't been getting as much snow as the Australians have been getting. And look, New South Wales, windy westerlies blowing through. That keeps it dry in most eastern areas and not as cold. I mean, it's not overly hot, but it's not going to be as cold as those of you right down here in the thick of that wintry weather, and further northwards, dry conditions. Still a wee bit of low pressure in the tropical north, but as you see going into the weekend, it doesn't do much. And as the big high pressure belt expands, it's a really large high pressure zone. It's kind of flat and narrow, but it expands all the way up, right up to tropical areas. So that pushes the red line further northwards, and it also nudges or bulldozes, depending on how you look at it, the wintry stuff happening in the southeast corner. But look at the color shading here. We're still seeing 40, 50 millimeters of rain on top of the days before. Most of that wet stuff on the western side of the mountains in Victoria and into New South Wales, the ACT on the edge of it. Colder air going northwards, a light dusting of snow here and there on the tops of the New South Wales mountains and ranges. Won't be very much though, the pale shading there. But that's a wintry cold day coming up, and wet weather returns to the New South Wales coastline to some degree in the south as we go through into Saturday. And we've got showers in South Australia finally falling apart, and further northwards, windy easterlies will help lift up the temperatures along the Midwest and northern parts of Western Australia. So as we go to our final map here on Sunday, let's start with the high pressure belt. It starts over here at Madagascar, goes all the way across the southern part of the Indian Ocean, stretches out the next main centre over South Australia, and that balloons all the way out to the Tasman Sea, and that's the end of it there, in the middle of the Tasman Sea. New Zealand finally gets the wintry stuff Australia's had by Sunday. It's New Zealand's turn to go downhill weather-wise, but Australia's actually looking quite settled as we end the weekend, last day of August on the calendar, and of course next Monday is September 1st, which is the first day of spring on the meteorological calendar. Those that go with the astronomical date, that's the Earth's cycle around the sun, you've got to wait until about another month from now for that to be officially over with winter. But you can basically see We go into next week with high pressure around, windy easterlies at the top of the country. Not a lot of rain around. Tasmania, though, under windy westerlies and colder airflows. Gale force winds are still possible. Eastern areas, though, look mostly dry. So it's an active week for the final week of August. That's all from me for today. See you again tomorrow, Tuesday, as we take a closer look and a sneak peek at the 1st of September. I'll see you tomorrow.